How you doing?
How are you? I'm good.
Good, good. Um, how's your day going?
It's a busy one, that's for sure. We did
You good?
have a roundtable with the faith communities. I just got off a call on vaccine updates with the Premier and General Hillier. What else did I do today? Such a
Okay, let's
crazy,
start off with
crazy
that.
day.
Let's start off with that then. Vaccines, okay?
What do you call it? Yep. Oh, you want to start off with that? Okay,
Yeah,
so we
let's
just
start off
talked
with
about the
vaccines.
So there'll be a couple of phases. Phase one is kind of now till March, phase two, April till the fall, and then the fall. And I think what we're seeing is the Pfizer vaccine is the one we have approval for first, but it's
Okay.
the most volatile. Volatile, is that the right word? Unstable, because it has to be kept at minus 75 degrees Celsius. So there are only a small number of places that can accommodate them. All of them are in hospitals. There are 23 hospital sites that can accommodate them. And we are getting 23 million doses. So of course that, or 24 million, that's enough. Hang on, I better check my notes. Oh, I multiplied that by 10. 2.4 million vaccines. So that's enough for 1.2 million people, right? Because you have to get you have to get the vaccine twice in 2 week intervals, right? So the first time and then 2 weeks later. So that's enough for 1.2 million people. And that's the Pfizer vaccine. That's being kept at one of 23 sites in the deep freezers. And then the Moderna vaccine should be approved and online by kind of Q1 next year, so March, April-ish. So they're thinking there'll be more of that available come April, phase two, then, and then following that, late 2021, kind of the normal state of affairs. So phase two will go 6 to 9 months, and then late 2021 will be everyone else. So the first phase will be healthcare workers, because you will have to go to the hospital sites to receive the vaccine.
Yeah.
And then, and you know, the most vulnerable populations, those that are frontline workers, etc. And yes, we've talked about, it's a little bit unclear to me because they talk about seniors, long-term care centers, senior centers being the most vulnerable, Indigenous communities, but yet a little more difficult to administer if you have to bring them to the site, right, to the hospital. So that more likely not happening until closer to April, and then all the most vulnerable populations, and then after they are completed, everyone else will have their opportunity. So it's you know, a lot of consideration is being given to this rollout. Certainly, I know that Trillium Health Partners has sat at that a provincial table. Michelle DeManuel, our hero, who's our CEO of our hospital, and she gives input directly to the Premier, and they have a plan for the rollout. So after General Hillier, it's the hospitals, because of the instability of the Pfizer vaccine, that will be responsible for the administration of the vaccine. So this is just hot off the press. I literally got off that call to get onto our call.
Nice. And then what role will the city have in the distribution and the rollout of the vaccine? Will that have any?
Not really. I mean, we asked specifically if it's public health that will be responsible or the hospitals, and the response was in phase one, it will be the hospitals, because that's where the Pfizer vaccine will be stored, and maybe in phase two, public health. And then by phase three, the vaccine will be available in the same way that any flu vaccine would be available. So in local healthcare centers, your pharmacies, etc. But that sounds like it's in the fall of 2021, after all the healthcare workers, essential workers, and are the most vulnerable, the people in long-term care, our seniors, etc., have the vaccine first, and then it'll be open to the wider population. And that, of course, makes a lot of sense.
Mayor Crombie, are you going to get the vaccine?
I will.
You will? Okay. I can't hear you there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that better?
Yeah,
Can
that's
you hear
better.
me?
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, I'm not sure. Sometimes it's
You
these.
said yes, yes to the vaccine, though, right?
Yes to the vaccine. Yes to the vaccine, because it once again will allow me to be present in the community again, because like everyone else, I'm told to work from home and go out as little as possible. And I try to abide by those guidelines. I mean, you know, when I don't have to, I have been many virtual meetings. I just seem to go from my 8 o'clock to my 9 o'clock to my 9 o'clock to my 10 o'clock until here we are now. And then I have a few things tonight, and then finish reading my binders for tomorrow's council meeting, because a bunch of new material just came in. So I have to look. Oh, I know. We asked them not to do that, but they do. You know, the night before, it just came in. I just printed it, and that's for 9 a.m. tomorrow.
In 2021, one day we will have a face-to-face interview.
Yes,
So,
wouldn't that be wonderful to do that again?
So
this year will seem to have been on a blur, right? It'll be like.
Yeah.
Like you've never left the house or never left you're in your home too, right?
Yeah, this is my living room. So yeah. So,
exactly, right? And I'm in my office.
So Mayor Crombie, you mentioned that this might last till about April, first round seniors.
December to March is phase one. And
yeah.
then March, April, we'll start phase two. And then they're expecting that to be about 6 months. And then in the fall, hopefully that will be open to the wider public. And it'll be administered in the same way. The regular flu vaccine would be administered wherever you get that, at your healthcare center, at the pharmacy, etc., at your doctor, physician's office.
So the question that I always get asked to ask you is about the lockdown. Yeah. Right. So is the lockdown going to be extended past December 21st? What do you think?
So I'm hopeful, because we're stabilizing. Like we were 180, 150 new cases a day. Now we seem to be 140, 130. We're starting to stabilize and trend downwards. Now that said, to be in the red zone, so we're averaging 120 cases per 100,000. To be in the red zone, you have to be at 40. 40. Way to go. But the trend is, it's downward. The trend is going in the right direction. Now, so I was saying, I have been speculating that we would go back to red zone for December 21st, speculating, just me, hopeful, wishful thinking. Okay. Wishful thinking, I don't know anything. Yeah. But then that raises the question, does that mean the 4 days before Christmas will be a madhouse in the stores and in the malls? And what do you do about Boxing Day? You know, I bet a little part of me says maybe they'd wait till the 27th because to avoid, I don't know. Maybe they would give it one more week.
So, okay. So your gut's saying 21st?
I thought the 21st, and at least take us to red zone. So a few people we could open the restaurants for a few people, and certainly the retail to limited capacity. That made sense to me. And then of course my 2 chiefs of staff, they're fabulous, said, oh, so think about what the malls will look like. And then Boxing Day. And I thought, oh, they do raise a good point.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the holidays.
But the numbers are going in the right direction. Let's say that. Yeah. They're starting to stabilize and trend downward. It's very, very good news. Because, you know, I look at those every day, and we wait for, what's today? Tuesday. Oh, we get another epidemiology report tonight. So, yeah, you always catch me on the Friday numbers instead of the Tuesday numbers. I shall bring you up to date on what's going on in the congregate settings, too. 18 long-term care homes, 10 seniors homes, and 5 group homes are in yellow. That means their staff have tested positive, but it's under control.
Sorry, this is a new color-coded system?
No, they have red, yellow, green in the congregate settings too.
Okay.
It just tells them how many, if it's an outbreak, it's in red. How many people in yellow means usually just staff, and they were able to send them home and isolate them. The only one of our homes in red at this point is Tyndall still. And I mentioned Tyndall to you before. They had a high number of us, 1.90 positive tests among the residents and another 80 among staff. And it was quite a massive outbreak in the home. And that's the only one. And I don't have the numbers for the schools, so don't ask me. But they go up and down. They go up and down. A classroom closes, and I don't think I have any schools closed. But you have a couple of students out or a classroom shut here and there, and then it changes. When I look back at the enforcement numbers, there's some interesting things. So we got the enforcement update numbers on yesterday morning. And for the most part, let me just say congratulations, everyone is compliant, which is wonderful. But there are always people pushing the rules, and that there are a few retailers that are taking their case to court. And, there are a couple of appliance stores and electronic stores and even a bedding store that want to be considered hardware stores and have trying to convince a judge of that right now today. So we'll see how that goes. But they were closed down. Pet supplies, unfortunately, was fined. Non-essential retail was closed down. Private gatherings in an unnamed commercial unit with alcohol and gaming, poker.
Why is it always unnamed?
Because we can. We don't. Well, first of all, it was in a commercial unit. So it wasn't an establishment. It wasn't, a restaurant bar that you would be aware of. It was somebody leased out a commercial unit to host a private gathering.
Okay. Is it still not their responsibility?
Pardon me?
It's still not their responsibility to do their kind of due diligence to see who they're renting it out to, and.
I mean, in this era, I'm sure people are glad that somebody wants to rent their unit and pay, and they think they're probably not being forthright with what is really going to happen there. There was another private gathering in a condo, and they were broken up because they were loud and intoxicated, apparently, and disrupting their neighbors. So they received a ticket. Non-essential retail. Saturday night, there was a private gathering in a restaurant that had alcohol and gaming tables.
Interesting.
Another, I can't tell you that. Well, I don't even have the name, to be perfectly honest. I don't have the name on my sheet. Also Saturday night, a restaurant with indoor dining received a ticket. Sunday, there was a furniture store, indoor shopping, and then retail. So retail sales from vehicles. So that sounds like it was a car dealership. So those are the kinds of things we've been hearing. They did last week 2,700 business inspections. So that's been over 12,600 since the start. And the compliance is over 99%, right? Everybody's compliant except for the handful I just mentioned. So it's wonderful, actually.
So Mayor Crombie, you mentioned that they get the fines. Now, after the fines, do they stay open, or did they just get the ticket and just? Do they have to close?
They have to close, and then bylaw goes back the next day to make sure they stay closed, or they get a greater fine. You saw what happened in the Adamson barbecue. Same thing. Yeah. We would be doing the same thing. It escalates too. One thing you get spoken to. Oh, you mean I'm non-essential? I am non-essential. I should close. Oh, okay. But if they get a ticket, but if they reopen, it escalates. Because don't forget, those fines are anywhere from $10,000 to $100,000.
Okay.
Just being present will give you 880.
Yeah, true. Okay. In regards to the holiday and Christmas time, and it sounds like a lot of people are ignoring. They're going to ignore the rules and have get-togethers. It was a poll that went out, and I think 7 out of 10 said, "Yeah, well, I'm getting together with family." And so, will bylaw officers be going kind of like knocking on doors of residents, private homes?
Well, not proactively, but certainly you'd be surprised that if, depends where you live, if there are a number of cars gathered in front of a home or in their driveway, neighbors do call. We do get those calls. And once we receive the 311 call, bylaw does go over and knock on the door.
Okay.
Few of the cases, the one with the unruly setting in particular, but that was almost a noise complaint. Come in and stop this party, right? So that's a shame, because we see it in the numbers, so we're not fooling anyone. Starting 5 to 6 days later, we see the numbers starting to escalate. We've seen that. We saw that at Thanksgiving. We saw it at Halloween. We saw it at Diwali, right? Yeah. Things are calm now, and then there'll be Hanukkah starts Thursday, and then there will be and then they're going to be Christmas, right?
Bonnie, do they call you directly? Do they like message you and say, "Hey, there's people over here"?
No, they call 311.
No, I know. I'm just saying. Have you got?
I do get texts from people. Get texts from people. No, I do. People I know. Sure, but you know, I tell them to bylaw. I'm not going over there, but bylaw will.
Yeah. Okay.
And the odd time, it'll be Peel Police, right?
Cool. Has the province responded back to your call in regards to leveling the playing field when it comes to big box stores and small business?
I'll say not yet, but I think they're waiting to see the numbers stabilize. I understand there's a member of provincial parliament, Mike Cole, that's picked up that ball now as well. So we'll see if he says, you know, I'm with that mayor over in Peel, Mississauga, who wants to shut down the non-essential aisle. We'll see if that gets any traction. You know, I'm hopeful, but look, business as much as I do, but when you get advice from public health that says lockdown, then what are you going to do? You know, you're doing what's in the best interest of our residents to protect them. Protect their safety and well-being. It's a public health measure, and you're getting advice from public health. And you know, people will say, "Well, the science doesn't back it up," and I've heard that too. You know, I on the call with the faith community, the Peel Interfaith Council, which is a great call, and they said, "But we're not the source of the spread, less than 3%." And I said, "Yeah, restaurants and gyms said the same thing, but you know." If you counted up the big box stores and the grocery stores and the pharmacies, yeah, you might get about 100. If you add in the restaurants and the gyms, you get thousands. So, you know, from public health perspective, it's just gates to the risk of transmission, right? And we've already talked about it. Restaurants, unless you could put plexiglass barriers in the middle of the table. People are not protected, right? Because you're exposed. The person across from you could be a carrier, right? They could be asymptomatic, and they could have COVID and not know it. And it may not affect them, but it may affect you, or you may bring it home to someone else. So that's the issue. And there's so many of them. You know, we try to argue that all the protocols are in place, just like in the places of religious worship. I know they were strictly enforcing protocols. I saw it. I went to church myself back when we were open. But when you speak with public health, it just increases the risk. And when our cases are so high and our hospitals are suffering and struggling and at capacity, and they're already transporting patients and canceling elective surgeries, you know, we increase the risk of transmission, what will happen? So that, you know, in fairness, they're trying to do the right thing. It's not popular, and maybe people don't feel it's backed by science because there really wasn't the source of the spread, but the risk is, of course, the risk. There is risk, and that's undeniable. And we see that is the case, you know, abroad as well, in Europe, where they have strict measures and lockdowns in place. And you know, we've seen communities that impose curfews, for that matter. You know, and I think in the UK, the bars, restaurants had to close at 6. Well, ours open then. It's kind of funny. Or curfews, you have to be off the street. I think in California there are curfews. I think in Italy and France there are curfews. So it's just you know, the risk of transmission being greater, and particularly in the later hours of the evening, if people have been out dining and maybe consuming alcohol, then they let their guard down a little bit, and then the risk of transmission is greater. And we're all aware of that. It's not that we don't want to open things. We very badly want to open things. And I'm just asking people if they're compliant. I mean, when people aren't compliant, we see it in the numbers. Let's be honest. We see it in the numbers, and we can trace it back. Can trace it back to that workplace outbreak, or, you know, Thanksgiving. We know when we see the spikes. We know. So you're not really fooling anyone, people. We might not know exactly where you were, but we know that you were doing something you shouldn't have been.
Let's stray away from COVID-19 for a sec.
Sure.
I got a couple of questions that are not non-COVID-19 related. The city recently announced a new hydrogen fuel cell electric bus pilot project as part of a climate change action plan. Last year, it was reported that the plan would cost more than $457 million in the coming decade, but the COVID causing such an extreme hardship, is the city on track to implement the CCAP by 2029? That's a long question.
That's a great. And you know what? It's a great question because we are committed to implementing our climate change action plan. It does come with a big price tag, and we do want to be carbon free and carbon neutral by 2050. And right now our goal is to be 80% carbon neutral by 2050, and I don't think that goes far enough. So we do have to proceed, and the person, the questioner, is right. In an era where we're facing operational deficits, is this the time? And I think my council is on board. This is a pilot, so we'll see how efficient it is and if there are long-term benefits. And it may very well be that this hydrogen fuel bus pilot project, where we see that there are efficiencies generated and could be very cost effective. So I think, there'd be a payback on it. So we are proceeding, but we have to be careful as well. That money's set aside, much of it in our capital plan, not in our operational plan, but we're very committed to moving forward, yes. Okay. And things for the most part are okay. We did receive some of that Safe Restart funding for our transportation program and for operational budget, and we're okay. I mean, we do have a small deficit, but we think we can, make it up and move some things or delay. Mostly next year, we'll be putting off programs into the following year, to 2022.
Okay. We're going to get. Okay. Okay, good. We're going to get to some Instagram viewer questions. Okay, this is an interesting one. Okay, so you ready?
I'm ready. Born ready.
Okay. If two households quarantine for 14 days before Christmas, are those families allowed to visit each other for Christmas?
Both in a lockdown zone, because that's the other problem. We don't want people zone hopping, region hopping, right? True. So, hypothetically, theoretically, based in science, that should be okay. But please, when bylaw knocks on your door, don't say the mayor said it was
okay. They'll have this clip of you going, here you go.
Theoretically, the mayor says it's okay, right? The other issue is if somebody's in a green zone, yellow zone, and here we are in the lockdown zone, that's very frowned upon to go in other regions because they see us very much. And you and I are, we're not carrying the virus, we're healthy, etc. But even moving into, Burlington, Oakville, or we hear people in Brampton are going to Vaughan, and people in North Toronto are going to Markham, etc. It's frowned upon. They feel that we're carrying the virus in with us, and they don't want us there. So this is the time to obey the rules. But, we understand that people are looking for little loopholes to celebrate the holidays with their extended family, and, they sound like they're doing the right thing. But maybe just a Zoom call, folks. Like, we're all in the same boat here this year.
Okay. Another question we have is, how can we actually know people actually pay the COVID-19 fines?
Oh, so they're in court now, and the courts are upholding, the JPs are upholding the fines.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So they have to pay.
They have to pay. They have to pay. Yeah, because many of them get ascribed by the court, right? You go in and there's a range other than, the $880 and the $360 fines for not wearing your face covering. There are others, like those house parties could be $10,000 to $100,000. For instance, the Adamson barbecue people said, well, that we don't even know what the fine was. Well, the court decides the fine, right? And the courts are upholding the fines.
Okay. All right, good question. Another question we have, and we'll probably end with this because it's a question I'm sure you'll be happy to answer. How will the city celebrate Mayor? They put Mayor here.
That's
The
okay.
Mayor.
Former mayor, yeah, of course.
I'm like, how will the city celebrate Hazel's 100th birthday next year?
It's a great question, and I know that there was a group, a subcommittee formed to help plan a big party, and we were interacting with them with ideas and how we would do that. And then a couple of months ago, we said, well, what if we can't have the party? What will we do? And so, there will be a naming. We felt strongly as a city that we should do something in the civic precinct, meaning naming a civic building for Hazel McCallion. That's the right thing to do. And we decided it would be the library. We all like that idea very much. So Central Library will become the Hazel McCallion Central Library. And we've already announced that, and we've already shown what the plaque will look like. And the Central Library is going through renovations. And we're I think it's February 10th, which is just 4 days before her birthday, which is Hazel McCallion Day here in Ontario. No longer Valentine's Day, it's Hazel McCallion Day. We will unveil the plaque on the building on the Central Library. But otherwise there would have been a large party somewhere, a big celebration. Now there is a number of, she has lent her name to the partners to do fundraising for the hospital. And I think their goal is to raise a few $1 million. And of course they have some sponsors to publish a book, sort of a memory book. And I think I may have even submitted a photo with Hazel for the book, and people can buy ads or buy multiple copies and whatever. So they've already raised about $1 million, and I think the goal is about 3. So she's using Trillium Health Partners is using Hazel's legendary fame and her personality to sell the collector's item book in her name for her birthday. What else is she doing? Yeah, let's see. Oh, yeah. Doing a promotional video. Of course, Ron Duquette. He's putting together a video, a film about Hazel. I know that I have to go in and tape some remarks and tape my segment of it in the next couple of weeks as well. So, unfortunate. I remember her retirement, and that was a very big party, and we had it at the International Center, I think. International Center, or was it Convention Center? It was a very, very large venue. I remember Prime Minister Chrétien was there. It was very exciting. It was a very big party, and I think they had hoped to do something similar, but given COVID, unfortunately, we're unable. And they kept saying, do you think by February? Do you think by February? And I said, we're in lockdown now. I can't see 1,000 people being permitted into a venue for a sit-down dinner and a party by February. No. So unfortunately, we have to, I don't know if it's canceled or postponed, but we'll have a number of celebrations. They'll be virtual, obviously, and we will still celebrate Hazel's 100th birthday in a very appropriate way with the naming and the book launch and the video, etc. But unfortunately, there will not be a sit-down gala dinner at this time.
I was there too. I remember, didn't she drive in a Cadillac or something like that?
Something like that. I know. It was a beautiful event.
Yeah, it was massive. Anyways. So, sorry, just to add on to that question, will the renovations be done for the library for the 10th?
I don't believe so. I don't believe the renovations will be completed then, but certainly it's the time we'll unveil the naming, the plaque there.
Okay. All right. Mayor Crombie, thank you so much. We okay next week too? It's getting pretty close to Christmas. Yeah?
Probably we'll take the week after Christmas off.
All right. Sounds good to me. Okay. See you later.